Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. Coco Gauff goes gladiator at Roland Garros, while Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek left searching. 1. Coco Gauff is the best competitor in tennis. Winning is the desired outcome that we can't control. But as Gauff has repeatedly demonstrated, competing is the process that one can hold ownership of every single minute. Gauff's forehand and serve have inspired enough dialogue to trigger a decade-long teaching conference. Put that aside, and let us now praise her career-long superpower. No one in tennis competes better than Gauff. This surfaces not just in the rallies, but also in between points. Turn the clock back 44 years. On an extremely blustery day, Tracy Austin lost the first set of the 1981 U.S. Open final to a powerful opponent, Martina Navratilova, 6-1. From there, Austin dug in, won the next two sets in tiebreakers, and, like Gauff, earned her second Grand Slam singles title. The asset that carried Austin to that victory was the same one that worked for Gauff: positive body language and keen mental focus, as she went about the business of solving one problem after another. Obviously, I think the first Grand Slam singles title was maybe more emotional, said Gauff. But I think this one was just harder because, you win one, and you just don't want to get satisfied with just that one. Today, playing Aryna, I was just like, I just gotta go for it and try my best to get through the match. Yeah, that's what I did. There are those who say that the ability to compete effectively cannot be taught. I'd say it is an abdication of responsibility on the part of parents, instructors, coaches, and many others. For surely, a positive attitude like Gauff's can be learned, can it? And while she brings her own distinct temperament into competition, Gauff was also taught such values as grit, poise, and grace by her parents, and was therefore open to learning yet more from others. To earn the title in Paris, Gauff also beat the winners of the last two majors, Australian Open champion Madison Keys and U.S. Open titleist Sabalenka, knowing that could further boost Gauff's confidence as she heads to Wimbledon, the slam where Gauff first hit the pro radar 6 years ago, but also the only major where she's never gone past the round of 16. 2. Aryna Sabalenka. Still no. 1. But not having fun. The good news for Sabalenka is that she's reached 7 singles finals this season, including each of the year's first 2 majors. The bad news is that she's lost both. So though Sabalenka remains ranked no. 1, this is akin to leading the league in batting average, but hardly being the MVP. In Melbourne, Sabalenka encountered Keys in a zone. Fair enough, as it's plausible to treat such an outcome as a one-off. But at Roland Garros, Sabalenka lost the battle in a far more emotional and tactical manner. From the minute she began to see her first set lead of 4-1 40 love unravel, much of the old, highly temperamental Sabalenka surfaced. Give the mental progress she's made in recent years, it was a disturbing sight to see how a choice to be so agitated concurrently triggered ill-informed tactical decisions. As one example, Sabalenka lost so much faith in her approach volley sequence that she hit drop shots far more than viable, a fatal tactic versus an opponent as fast as Gauff. Even more so on a windy day, when it's that much harder to calibrate a drop shot's placement. And though she rallied well to level the third set and even earn a break point, when Gauff served for the title at 5-4 in the third, Sabalenka was repeatedly unable to effectively blend power and accuracy. As for Wimbledon, Sabalenka has twice reached the semis there. In 2024, she withdrew with a shoulder injury. Could the grass prove her breakthrough major of the year? Yet eager as Sabalenka is to move forward, instead of tossing what happened at Roland Garros into a trash bin, might she study what happened? This was a defeat triggered to some degree by the negative energy she projected through most of this match. Soon after came such unsporting Sabalenka remarks about how terribly she played, giving minimal credit to how Gauff had broken up her game. I think she won the match, not because she played incredible. Sabalenka said, just because I made all of those mistakes from if you look from the outside, kind of like from easy balls. With a day to reflect, Sabalenka put out an Instagram post apologizing for her comments. Coco handled the conditions much better than I did and fully deserved the win, wrote Sabalenka. She was the better player yesterday, and I want to give her the credit she earned. Perhaps Sabalenka might also be pleased to know that following that tough loss to Austin, Navratilova went on to win 4 U.S. Open singles titles. 3. Iga Swiatek gains a measure of relief. Considering how distraught Iga Swiatek has appeared for much of 2025, her semifinal run at Roland Garros was, if not triumphant, at least reasonably redemptive. A fourth-round victory over Aryna Sabalenka showed Swiatek's finest competitive qualities. There followed a sound win over the tenacious Aryna Sabalenka. But then, hoping to reach the finals in Paris for the fourth straight year, Swiatek came across a highly proficient Sabalenka. Obviously, looking at the math, I lost many points right now. But I know that it doesn't really matter, said Swiatek following that match. Like any of us can win these tournaments. We kind of start every tournament from the beginning. So I'm just going to try to do my job and focus on just getting progress and learning new stuff on grass right now. A few weeks ago, I opined that in her quest to rekindle her love of the game, Swiatek should go coach-free for a while. That likely won't happen. On a more micro basis, my idea is that Swiatek refine her serve. I've never been a fan of the motion. A technique I believe makes the delivery predictable and attackable, as proven when Swiatek won a scant 35% of second serve points versus Sabalenka. All this said, only traces of what Swiatek showed in Paris give me significant confidence in her possibilities for a deeper-than-usual Wimbledon run. 4. Loes Boysen proved why surprise can occasionally be positive. Global as tennis can be, at Grand Slam events that are attended by vast thousands who scarcely know much about tennis, national pride often carries the day. Let's also keep in mind the last time a French woman won the singles title came 25 years ago, when Mary Pierce raised the coupe Suzanne Lenglen. Unfortunately, a ceremony to honor Pierce was cancelled when she withdrew due to personal reasons. It's been 14 years since a French woman even got to the semis, Marion Bartoli. Which leads us to Loes Boysen. Most times in life, surprise poses danger. Not in sports though, as proven this year by Boysen's enchanting journey to the semis. Granted a wild card, the 361st ranked Boysen, ranked 152 a year ago, but subsequently sidelined by a left knee injury, kicked off her first ever main draw slam appearance with a fine victory over 24th-seeded Elise Mertens. But week 2 was where she took even bigger strides, defeating top tenors Jessica Pegula and Mira Andreeva. This was the classic case of a free-swinging contender, happy to savor the moment and ride the crest of a wave. Or was it simply the culmination of a long road back to proficiency? No, I don't think it's a miracle, Boysen said following her quarterfinal win over Andreeva. For sure, I have a little bit of luck also, but I think it's just, as you said, the hard work that I put since I started playing tennis, and also last year with my rehab and everything. It's just result of hard work, nothing else. Boysen's massive forehand and many adroit shots wowed the fans, disrupted her opponents, and rocketed her 296 spots up the ranks to 65. Boysen's significant pro tennis journey has only just begun. 5. Quartet of quarterfinal losers will still be heard from. History is not always written by the winners. All 4 quarterfinal losers in Paris were surely frustrated by their defeats, but also figure to make their share of headlines at Wimbledon. Andreeva may have withered in the face of an inspired Boysen and a highly partisan crowd, but certainly that experience will help her continue to mature emotionally. Keys, surely happier than ever in the wake of having earned her first singles major, was toe-to-toe with Gauff until the third set of their quarterfinal. Her game is tailor-made for Wimbledon. Svitolina, a revitalized competitor in the wake of her homeland being invaded, continues to impress in these late stages of her career. I feel that I have a good chance to play good tennis, said Svitolina following her quarterfinal loss to Swiatek, to challenge the top players for the titles and some tough matches. I have this belief and I want to continue working. And Qinwen Zhang has now reached the quarterfinals or better at every major save for Wimbledon. Her power baseline game is also suitable for the grass. 6. Early exits, downward or upward. Emma Navarro, Karolina Muchova, and Barbora Krejcikova. 3 versatile stylists who've all cracked the top 10 at various times, collectively won a single match at Roland Garros this year. While Muchova and Krejcikova were each coming back from injuries, Navarro lost her opener to 68th-ranked Jessica Buzes-Minero by the shocking score of 6-0, 6-1. How do those Roland Garros losses affect each contender's mindset coming into the grass season? Perhaps they can be swiftly discarded, Krejcikova has only played 3 matches this year. Muchova, on her good days and next stage version of Ash Barty, continues to struggle for consistency. And Navarro, who reached the quarterfinals at Wimbledon and the semis at the USO. Coco Gauff goes gladiator at Roland Garros, while Sabalenka and Swiatek are left searching. Roland Garros, 2025. The clay was crimson, the sky a defiant blue, and the crowd's roar, the sound of tennis purists and thrill-seekers, echoed like battle drums around court Philipp Chatrier. In the middle stood Coco Gauff, no longer a teenage sensation, but a warrior fully grown, poised like a gladiator in the dust of Paris. Her forehand was a whip, her backhand a blade, and with each groundstroke, she carved her story deeper into the clay. This was not the same Gauff who first arrived on the scene in 2019 at Wimbledon, the young prodigy who shook hands with Venus Williams and became America's next. That Coco was quick, fearless, and full of raw talent. But this Coco, Roland Garros 2025 Coco, was something else entirely. Battle-hardened, tactically astute, emotionally composed. She was a champion in waiting. Or perhaps already a champion in every way except the trophy count. Her performance in Paris this year wasn't just a run. It was a crusade. And like the best of crusades, it came with blood, sweat, and an emotional toll. She wasn't the tournament favorite. Those labels still clung to Iga Swiatek, the Queen of Clay, and Aryna Sabalenka, the power-hitting Belarusian who had carved through draws like a buzzsaw all season. But Gauff didn't need favoritism. She had momentum and belief. The arena of clay. In the early rounds, Gauff danced through opponents with a fluidity that made her game look deceptively easy. But it was in the second week where she donned the armor. Her quarterfinal clash against Sabalenka was a high-voltage affair. 2 women at the peak of their powers, playing a brand of tennis that seemed to flirt with the supernatural. Sabalenka opened with fire, aces down the tee, forehands that left skid marks on the clay. But Gauff absorbed it all like a sponge soaked in lightning. What made the match unforgettable wasn't just Gauff's shot-making or her physical grit. It was her poise and chaos. After dropping the first set in a tie break, she didn't blink. She adjusted. She read Sabalenka's patterns, anticipated the thunder before it struck, and began carving angles like a sculptor at work. Midway through the third, it was Sabalenka who looked hunted, bewildered by a 21-year-old with eyes like steel and footwork like jazz. By the end, Gauff stood over a 6-7, 6-4, 6-3 victory, arms raised, face calm. It was not jubilation, it was declaration. A new force had arrived, the silence of the queens. Swiatek, the dominant figure on red clay, came into Paris with a streak of invincibility. She had made Roland Garros her fiefdom, her baseline her throne. Her drop shots were poetic, her topspin biblical. Yet this year, she looked moral. There were flashes of brilliance, of course. Her third-round demolition of a seeded Spaniard reminded everyone why she'd been dubbed the Rafa of the WTA. But in the semis, facing a surging Gauff, she hit a wall. Or rather, Gauff became the wall. It was a reversal of their past meetings, where Swiatek had often disassembled Gauff with clinical efficiency. But this time, the patterns failed. The depth wasn't enough. Gauff's return game, now evolved and measured, neutralized Swiatek's first serve. The pole, usually unflappable, started spraying errors, forced by Gauff's relentless pressure. When Swiatek's final forehand clipped the net and dropped back on her side, the match ended not in a bang, but in a sigh. A queen dethroned not by collapse, but by an heir who had outgrown the role of understudy. Aryna Sabalenka, meanwhile, watched from the locker room, towel around her neck, eyes on the monitor, her Roland Garros dream postponed once more. After losing to Gauff, she admitted, she's not the same Coco anymore. She's something else now. She was right. A different fire. There was a time when Gauff was praised for her athleticism, her speed, her potential. But this year, her game was no longer about the future. It was about now. Her serve, once her Achilles heel, had become a weapon of deception and precision. Her forehand, long considered erratic, was now laser-guided, fewer wild swipes, more controlled destruction. Her biggest shift, though, was mental. She played with an emotional equilibrium that belied her age. No racket tosses, no screams of frustration, just a clenched fist, a glance to her box, and a reset. Her final showdown came against an unexpected finalist, a bold, brilliant Czech newcomer who had toppled a few giants of her own. But by then, it was already written. Gauff took the final in straight sets, 6-3, 7-5. And as the last ball sailed long and the crowd erupted, she didn't fall to the ground. She stood tall. A gladiator never kneels. The aftermath. In the press room afterward, Swiatek was gracious. She earned it, she said. I felt like I was playing against a mirror, but a stronger, smarter version of myself today.